Hello. Mic seems to be Mic check. Mic seems to be working. I think. I don't know if I can actually check which mic it's picking up. Looks like the good webcam here is not fully dried, even though it's 50% humidity here. Welcome, everybody who is currently here to the December 1st Roach Wiggle after the 2-week break for Thanksgiving. Let's see anything going on in my inbox here. A couple things. Get to that eventually. Hello, Tennyson and Jose Nunez. Joe Macro, hello, and Junior, good to see again familiar faces as we move into an exciting month for everything with Christmas and New Year's and some things on the table for Roach. Whoa, the viewer numbers just jumped. So tonight should be we're just gonna see where this live stream goes. Not gonna say we're gonna end early, not gonna say we're gonna end late. I do have things that I should be doing in the bug room, but then again, when don't I guess. Yeah, let's see. I feel like I had a couple of things to come out and say. Jojo, if you don't mind disclosing in the chat, did the bugs arrive yet? Since I think they were supposed to be one day. I can't quite remember. I'm sure USPS could tell me, but USPS tracking has been really weird. At least last month, the service was amazing, but the tracking has been weird for maybe like a year, 2 years now. Like there are 2 boxes that I shipped yesterday that I literally handed to the post person at the post office, and the label still says that they haven't been shipped. So that's distressing, very distressing, not trackable, etc. But let's see, no updates yet. Yeah, you noticed that too, Junior. Yeah, so we'll see how things go with those things. Let's see. There were some things. I wanted to bring up. A lot of actually good things, I think. Not too many. Usually I come on and there's like, oh, I lost this, oh, I killed that, oh, blah, blah, blah. I think in general, positive news, and trying to see if it was something in this room that had particularly good news associated with it. Maybe, I also can't remember if I brought it up before in the last live stream, but we have finally Sandbrat babies, Leucolapisma, what's the Arenarium, yeah, from the original 3 that I brought back from Yuma have finally had babies. Ends up that it was not a all male group, so there were male and females in the 3, and there are babies. Excellent, so happy about that. We'll see if I feel pretty confident that now the babies have popped up that they'll culture. I can't fathom why a creature that lives on like hot, dry sand and would have any sort of special requirements in the middle of its life that it didn't have at the end or the beginning. So that's good. The silverfish from Utah have also reproduced, and there are more babies than I thought there were. So that's another big win there. And the babies seem to be growing. Again, I can't see why there would be some weird gimmick at either end of the life or in the middle of the life and not at either end. So that's 2 new nifty things to have cultured. Other things around the room, nothing like red and orange springtails are doing well, and we have an identity on let's Let's see, trying to find. I have not put his name to memory yet. I'll try Googling it and see if it'll fill in the blank. For anybody, Yuki and Nura, yeah, that's it. I'm trying to find. Oh, hey, Anthony. Okay, perfect. Ryan Rin, I can look that up. Again, the name has not been committed. Anyways, it's Yuki and Nura, yep, apheroides. And so that's the ID on the orange springtails. I think he just got his hands on, he or she, I'm not sure. I would assume he. I don't know what sex is associated with that name. Anyways, he, I think, from what you said before, Anthony, he got his hands on some reds. So going to identify those, I guess, or see if the current ID is correct on them. So those are doing well. Thinking to downstairs, all the roaches are pretty much doing well. I need to go through and do another round of husbandry soon. Actually need to get onto that. Everything but isopods soon. Let's see, what else have I been working on today? Setting up more, moving Dorcas larvae around. Dorcas titanus castanicolor, waiting for males to pop up. Anything else that I've been particularly excited about? Anthony Green sent me some Porcellio Excalibur, which I am extremely impressed with. They blow the old skirt. They blow the old skirted stock that I made from California strains out of the water with the crispness of the markings. And so that will for sure become a very popular favorite strain of Scabur in the not so distant future, I'm sure. And I already have some plans of what I'm going to try and do to work it into other projects. So let's see, there's that. Anything else have babies? Marulinella babies are still around, but I think a lot of my adults have died. It's possible that they're semiparous and they will have or they'll get large and have a litter and then die or something like that. I don't know. When the Cubaris species Jupiter is thriving in there and not dying, why this other species that is producing offspring and then dying, why they wouldn't just continue living as adults if that was typical of them or of full size. So yeah, there's that. Perispherus punctatus. I have babies. This is the first set of Perispherus I produced. Well, I had Pygmaeus again last year for a short period of time, and they did okay. I think they may have gotten too dry when they wanted to be more moist at some point. I don't know. Pygmaeus, ever since I moved out of my parents' house, is just never really did anything for me. So punctatus is doing a lot better with a lot less care. So that's great. I missed having a Perispherus and these. Hopefully I'm not going to jinx myself like I did with the Pseudoglomerus tarsalis, but I think a lot of people ended up losing their groups of those. I think TJ might be the only one with a good group of them left. But anyways, these Perispherus punctatus are doing great. I think that's. I know there's more stuff that I'm forgetting about off the top of my head that I've been excited for. Basically, once the live stream's over, I'm going to go and just finish doing general odds and ends of putting things away. And right now, as I ramble, I'm kind of buying time for more people to pop in because I do have some announcements. Let me think. What am I going to do after this? Finish rehousing Paranophyta formosana, which have rebounded after I almost killed them last summer, not this current summer, but the summer before. Tennyson says, got some Dipterette from Hanstromi yesterday, and you don't really realize how small they are until you see them in person. It was a nice surprise, only seeing zoomed photos of them previously. Yeah, they're just barely smaller than Simplos Palins. Just barely. What else was I going to say? Thinking about containers I just happened to check on today. Princessia TJ sometimes is in the live stream. Sometimes he has work or other things, but I think that he's a pretty consistent dead stream watcher. So if you're hearing this, TJ, so I was excited. Some stock that TJ had sent me that was older Princessia, hoping that it was pure U.S. stock. Based on it being from somebody's colony before sort of a point where it was compromised. Am now seeing some adults pop up that are slightly concerning in structure and coloration and texture. And so I'm back to being uneasy about the strain, having seen this weird diversity start to pop up now that I've gotten an F1 out of the ones that I was sent. I kind of figured that waiting a generation before getting overly hyped was a good idea, since they're probably pretty inbred, and so at any time that there's close to sibling pairing, anything that's recessive or anything that both of them share, I guess recessive stuff or things that are incomplete dominance or whatever, will become more obvious in some of the offspring. And so I am looking at them and kind of being like, there's a couple of you guys that don't exactly look good. So I'm back to being disappointed about that. It's kind of doubly disappointing because I haven't gotten any babies out of my Androhomana Princessia yet. So that is distressing. Even though it seems TJ is having the same issue, I just don't know what they want. There's the Mosolas right next to them that are doing great and having lots of babies, and I'm actually ready to kick them out of the room up here and put them downstairs because they're doing so well, out of the take extra special care zone and into the into the rest of the collection, I guess. So anything else? I'm gonna go through stuff in the bug room as I would be looking at it right now. Let's see. Oh, we really need to take care of those. Maybe not the best idea to get lost in thought about that. Do I have more isopods to set up? There's always more isopods to split and set up, so probably actually have to wait for more isopod containers to come in. I'm just about out of the last bunch that I bought, so now I got to go on Amazon and buy them out of another supply shipment of stuff. Actually, I think I bought the warehouse out of the fish flakes. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. Okay. Never mind. I was about to get mad because I think I bought the warehouse out of fish flakes because Amazon has stopped offering Prime delivery on the size of container that I buy, and it's now like back ordered to ships within 1 to 4 weeks. So, yeah, where was I going with this thought? I just looked this up to see if they had just put it up for delivery sooner. I would have been upset. Let's see. purchased quite a bit of that. I'm trying to think what else. How long is the incubation for blabber species? I've been seeing a lot of mating. If they're like other blabbers, it's probably about, for the first set of babies to pop up, maybe about 3 months from when you initially start seeing mating in a new colony. So, give it till like March. Actually, I guess since it's the beginning of December, give it to like the beginning of March. I might as well just start talking about the other things I was going to talk about. First off, we have an update on the sabbatical to work on the Roach Care Guide. We are at, as of yesterday on the website, I put funding at 20%. We are now at about 25% as of today. So thank you, everybody who's contributing to that. And don't necessarily know if everybody wants to be mentioned on the live stream yet. I figured I would do a big announcement about it after we hit the fundraising goal. And I was like, if I hit 50%, should I just go ahead and like demarcate that week as being off? And I kind of figured that I probably should not jump the gun just in case donations slow down or whatever. But it seems like we're on a pretty good track for the care guide happening that week. So that's also why I updated the homepage with that information about shipping last week. Next week will be my last week of shipping until after Christmas. We'll resume the week of December 26th and so on and so forth as weather permits through the remainder of the winter. Let's see. So there's that. Another eggs. They haven't hatched yet. Which eggs chain for eggs for what? Anyways, well, will you do that? Next thing I was thinking about, we will be having the guest live stream coming up. I will be seeing Kim next weekend, which puts a likely date at the guest live stream for December 15th or December 22nd. So likely one of those two. I will still be live streaming even if I do the sabbatical on the week of the 19th. There will still be a live stream. But so one of those days will probably be the guest live stream. And now the next thing, which is something that's been much awaited, is the Roach, the Bug Room tour that I've been discussing. And I figured that might be a good idea to do it 2022 or get it out 2023. And so I wanted to sort of get a dialogue or some discussion going on this and some input. So I was maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, I had my phone out and I thought, yeah, I'm going to schedule it where I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to put it up there and it's going to be on there. And the Roach Room tours, Bug Room tour is going to be December 29th. And I was so ready to do it. But then I like stopped and thought to myself that, oh yeah, Shane, I'm not counting my eggs before they're hatched. Yeah. So anyways, so I thought, that if I do it straight from my phone, like as an actual live stream, that while it would be very engaging, it's also, we're subject to the phone recording quality, which I think some people have said is pretty good. I'll go back and let me pull up one of my videos of one of these special live streams of being outside when it was still warm outside. Let's see.
What do you want?
There are ads on my dead streams? Really? I don't get any revenue from that. Well, now I'm a little miffed about that. July 7th. these out of order? Would have gone out in September. Did it not upload one of my live streams? Weird. Okay, camera quality is pretty good. Oh, wow, I still had the beard back then for this one. Okay. Yeah, quality's not bad. It's a lot better when I was close to the house. Still not exactly what I was, exactly what I'd be hoping for. Is my video quality turned all the way up? Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it could have been a lot worse. Huh. Oh, wow, this is just making me miss summer a lot. Anyways, so what I thought instead was, so that we can get some good video quality, so that it's not going to be lower quality that I'm taking while I'm showing things off, is that it might actually be better for me to do a pre-recorded tour, in the sense that I can, the week before release or something like that, we can do a live stream here, and people can email in some questions or things that they'd like to see, and then I can then sort of curate a tour. And this way I'll be able to set the phone on that 1080p or whatever and get some high quality video of stuff. And I feel like it'll be a little bit higher quality overall versus doing a live tour of it. So I want to get some opinions on that. Maybe also start sort of get that idea in people's heads to sort of get an inventory of things that they'd like to see in action. And this will also, again, I feel like the video quality will be, the direct quality obviously will be higher. Like the physical quality of the video will be much higher, but we will lose that as we're going. The actual live stream component of it will be sort of lost, which again, I usually miss a lot of questions on those plant live streams because it's on my phone and it doesn't show a full list of the feed like it does when I'm sitting here and reading down on the right. And so that's something that could be likely to happen, is that somebody could be asking something. I know you can always ask it again, but somebody say, what do you do for this? What do you do for that? And it'll be drowned out by chat, and I can't go and look at it because that's not how those work. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is I may do something to maybe echo or mirror what I did, what happened in 2014. Might have been December 2004 or January 2014 or 2015, where the new iteration of Roach Crossing went live at midnight on New Year's. And so maybe I will do that, where the Roach Room Tour video would post to YouTube at midnight on New Year's. So I'd have a nice video up for everybody on New Year's Day, and you can all see the bug room and whatnot. There's like a flighted Drosophila hydi that is just zooming in front of me, and I want it gone. Speaking of fruit flies, I did they put up a blog post a couple days ago about feeding your fruit flies. This is something that Alex Baranowski had brought up and determined that you will have higher survivability in things like mantids and whatnot if you basically gut load your fruit flies, or basically feed your fruit flies, because in my experience, they when you have a culture of fruit flies going, the larvae can their activity and the way they change the substrate chemically can be like a commercial culture, not necessarily in situ in a container. Also, hi Michael here. I just saw that your good evening pop up here. And so the adults will emerge, and they'll just be sort of on the verge of death and starving the whole time that they're existing. and your culture will die. You can have more grain mite problems and whatnot because you have dead bodies piling up. But if you feed the adults or something like a chunk of apple or a jelly cup, you won't have that issue as much, and your things eating the fruit flies will be much healthier. So I did that little blog post. It really makes a huge difference. No, maybe I didn't. Yes, everybody, take care of your fruit flies as I take care of this one. It really makes a difference with hide-eye and Bazadii. It seems to vary case by case with melanogaster. I keep looking up there because that's where I keep some like older fruit fly cultures have gone up there, and newer stuff that I've just recently started either goes in the corner over there for hide-eye, since they seem, if you keep hide-eye too warm, they're flightless genetically, but a little protein uncurls if they're kept too warm and allows them to fly. Even if they genetically cannot fly, you will end up with flying Drosophila hide-eye out of a flightless culture, because if they're kept warm, I think it's over like 83 degrees or something Fahrenheit, that protein will uncurl during pupation instead of being genetically coiled up, and they'll be able to fly. So those go over there, and then hide-eye and Bazadii, or melanogaster and Bazadii, which seem to like it a little warmer, I actually put right on my sand roach lamps that are down there just out of view. They sort of get some, the culture gets some heat, and they do really well like that. Very, very happy with my culture productivity in the last couple of months with this setup. So, okay, so we covered the sabbatical. We've covered Roach Room tour. Chat's kind of quiet tonight. Surprised. Again, we have a couple of regulars, but it's kind of quiet. So, sabbatical, that guest. I talked about taking this month off to work on the website, and I feel like I've gotten kind of on top of a lot of stuff. Busy shaving, says Tennyson, cleansing my face of the last month's hair. I feel like I'm pretty on top of bread and butter stuff, and so I don't necessarily feel like I need to take any more time off in December than I've already allotted, because as it says on the website, I've taken basically the week of the 12th off of shipping. Shipping takes up a lot of time, especially this time of year with the insulation, the heat packs, and making sure there's enough ventilation holes and all that stuff. And then I have the worry of whether or not things are going to make it with the holiday delays. So yeah, I got that week allotted. That's more than enough time for me to sort of get my feet under me for anything that needs to be done. And then the next week will, again, thanks to lovely contributors, donations, the next week, the week of December 19th, is looking like it will be off for the sabbatical. And so I will finally, after 6 long years, I think it was 2016. It's on the top of it. Yeah, 2016. 6 long years, we'll finally have a new full iteration to the cockroach husbandry guide. Michael Harris says, I have some Eleodes, Spinipes, Macrura pupating. Michael, you're giving me anxiety because I'm reminded that I haven't actually taken care of my beetle shelf like thoroughly in maybe a month, and I need to do that probably as soon as I wrap up the live stream. And I am a little worried because I had a lot of Eleodes and Ambaphion cultures going, and while darkling beetle adults, Eleodes adults, and Ambaphion adults are very dry tolerant, most darkling beetle, most tenebrion larvae are not dry tolerant at all. The exceptions to the rule are things like mealworms, like they're ridiculously dry tolerant. But things like Eleodes larvae are really sensitive to drying out, and I need to actually go and take care of those later today. So streaming live, I can be happy again. Hello, Chris. Good to see you, Mr. Chris Snyder, proud future recipient of the last auction order to go out, joining us. Michael Harris says, I got quite a bit of die-offs when the cooler weather hit and the heat kicked on. Yeah, only in the last couple days has the humidity really dipped in the house, because we had heavy winds yesterday, and that, obviously every unsealed part of the house gets some draft. Even sealed parts of the house get some draft to it, and so the heater, the furnace was kicked on, and in here, I don't know why this is happening, because there's more electrical stuff in here this year than there was last year, or over the course of the time that I've had this room. But this room is staying cold or cooler, and it really perplexes me, because the window seal is as fine as it's going to be, and has been. But I'll walk in here in the morning and look at the temperature, and it'll be like low 70s, and I'm like, So I've actually had to use a little fan heater in here, and I leave it on for a couple of hours in the morning to get the temperature up into the low 80s in here, and then I turn it off. It doesn't need to stay hot all day. We just need a rise in the fall. More substrate that is engaged in evaporative cooling. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of the substrate in here by volume is Aranavega, and a lot of it's pretty dry. So I'm not really sure. And it could be more water in here, so there's like a higher, specific heat, so it takes more temperature or more energy to warm up and takes longer to cool down. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I've had the fan in here too this whole time. So, but yeah, temperature, humidity is about 54% in here. Was down to 40% earlier. Again, these numbers are going to sound a lot lower than they were a couple months ago. So for everybody out here, this is the time of year that I planned for it. I am constantly complaining about. Get yourself a nice digital thermometer, hygrometer, and watch it religiously. Keep an eye on how things go up and down. Humidity fluctuations of about 10% over the course of the day, one way or the other, are pretty normal. But you will notice that the average is going to trend downwards with everybody's furnaces on. LC says, hi, getting a giant African millipede tomorrow. Any tips? Is it an adult? Is it an immature? Do you know if it was wild caught, etc.? Good questions to ask for taking the husbandry into account with this situation. Chris Snyder says, thermal capacitance. I think you see about 150 pounds of substrate sitting in enclosures. You'll want a good maybe like 4 to 6 inches of nice, rich humus, rotting organic matter substrate with lots of leaves and a little bit of rotting wood. And for food, zucchinis, apple, some fish flakes. Gigas will eat quite a few things, especially when they're larger. But the other thing, Chris, is it's weird again, because I would have thought that that would be a bigger buffer to things, Chain says, don't skip on the hygrometer price unless anybody knows any cheap, accurate hygrometers, because I haven't yet. Honestly, I really like this little thing. I can't remember how much this was, maybe like $10-$12. Ignore the time. I threw this at the ground accidentally a couple of days ago while doing husbandry. What is this? This is a lacrosse hygrometer, and 54% matches. If I bring the one from downstairs up here, they match pretty closely. with their percentages when I let them acclimate to this room. So usually as long as, oh, look at that, just from being near my hand or near my face, it's just the humidity's gone up a little bit. That's interesting. Anyway, so I like this. This has been working well for me. Again, it changes within 20%. It kind of keeps me in mind. It does have, or keeps it's easy for me to look over and say, oh, the humidity went up 20%. Oh, it went down 20% or whatever. It sticks out. It's good for keeping track of sort of substantial changes. Again, I'm not too concerned with a percentage here and there. But there is also a humidity alert thing on the back. I haven't figured out how to do it, and I don't necessarily feel that necessary because I come in here every day. And but anyway, so this has worked good for me. I cannot speak to its scientific direct accuracy or credentials. I'm trying to get this to focus on that. But I can at least say that it has suited my purposes well enough that I would recommend it. Let's see. Bunkalo Mimus, hello, says, I was eagerly waiting for Blabberus giganteus to baby make, and one of them recently gave me a whopping batch of 3 nymphs. This sounds like a good time for me to segue into a story about my Blabberus giganteus when I was younger. So when I first got Blabberus giganteus, sophomore year of high school, so that would have been, let me do the math here. Okay, so graduated in 2010 and go back a year to junior, through spring of junior, go back a year to spring of sophomore, 2008. So 2007, it would have been September 2007 when I got my giganteus, and I received mostly subadults ish, maybe 1 or 2 adults in the mix. And I have a graphic memory actually of coming home from school and the box was sitting on the porch, and I very vividly remember that and opening it up and seeing them being really excited. So anyways, where I was going with this was, having read about feeding them dead leaves and all that stuff, and at the time, kind of obviously not really knowing what I was doing, but I had the All Pet Roach book by that point, so I kind of did, but I decided to throw them in a 10-gallon tank with one big piece of plywood or bark or something on the side. And for the substrate, I took green oak leaves, like fresh oak leaves, dried them out, I think in the oven, or I just left them in the garage for a couple of weeks or something, and then crinkled them all up so that it was all flakes. So this is green oak leaf substrate, and looking back, it's like, gosh, you were so stupid. Maybe it would have worked, and actually I think it was kind of on track to work, because I remember the adults being very healthy. But what happened was, and this kind of goes back to Tennyson, your situation, where was I going with this? I got impatient waiting for nymphs. So I had adults by like early October, and I got impatient waiting for nymphs. I thought that I was doing something wrong because, obviously by we've had them for a month, there should be babies everywhere. And so I think I needed more room on the rack or something like that. So I decompiled the enclosure and I got rid of the green leaves and all that stuff. And I was fed up with it and threw them into, it was like one of those locking lidded shoebox things. It wasn't quite one of my standard totes, I don't think, yet. It would have been just some random one that I had cobbled together or bought. And, egg cartons is absolutely tragic setup. I remember that there was an adult that molted and the wings were all messed up. It was like the last nymph to molt to adulthood, and the wings got all messed up, and I was bummed about it and all that stuff. But anyways, I think by December, I didn't want to bother them because, oh, you don't want to mess with them too much. They're going to scare them and they're going to not have babies and all this stuff. And I remember not doing anything in the enclosure. I would give them a spray and I would like lift one of the egg cartons and the adults would be there and whatnot. But anyways, what eventually happened was, again, I checked on them more thoroughly. I think by December of that year in this really crappy setup, and they had babies. And I remember them when I found them, they were like ranging from second to like third instar. And it was just, it's like, wow, about time, even though it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely a reasonable amount of time to wait for a Blabberus giganteus nymphs to pop up. So they're pretty, they can be pretty tolerant of things, and Bunclomimus maybe double, triple, quadruple check to make sure that you don't have more than you think you do in there, because you might. Giganteus aren't they're not a slow breeding cockroach. They actually breed pretty fast. It's just they don't like to be crowded, and they like their air conditions. And sometimes it's with more ventilation, sometimes it's with less, etc. But if they get too crowded, you'll know because they'll start dying. Or if they get unhappy, you'll just get lots of large nymphs and adults starting to die. So, and Chain, Kyle Candelian, digital hygrometer salesman. I'll have to try it and compare it to mine. Yeah, I don't have any complaints about it. Again, I'm not that type of professional where I need it to be exact and calibrated and stuff like that. I need something that's going to be nowadays up to the point of needing something that's more reliable than the non-digital one that I had, just for consistency's sake, because I do want a bit more of a hard number to play around with when I'm recommending things to people and when I'm, going on my rants about ventilation and humidity and all of that stuff. Tessin, feels like my Tenebracosa have been taking forever. Haven't gone through their enclosure in a little bit, but I have a pregnant female in my 20 gallons since it's warmer, and she has been taking a while. They will also take longer usually if they're lonely. So if you have lower population density, they can take longer. They may not even reproduce at all. So hello, TJ. I said some stuff earlier in the stream that you probably have to go and catch the first part of it with the dead stream to hear. I can't actually remember what it was that I had brought up, but also thanks for making it. Some eggs, also good to see you. You slipped in. You're just always there. So it's just like, oh, it's just some eggs. He's always here. Braden, good to see you too. Howdy, lads. Okay, here's everybody coming in. 7:45. It was a bit lonely earlier with a handful of people. With different species, yeah, having more species of roaches in there will make them more comfortable. Thinking stuff. Goliathus. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, that reminds me. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna keep going on killing Goliath larvae for, because at this point I've gotten them to pupate communally and all this stuff. And it feels like every time I do something, Alan or Kai is like, "Oh, Asian breeder just figured that out like 2 days before you did," but like got them to live communally as third instars, which everybody at the time was saying you couldn't do. And I did it. And everybody was saying they won't pupate communally. And then I kept them communally, and they started pupating communally. But so now what I need to do for my sake is I need to find something that's easy to feed them that isn't disgusting and gross in a communal setup. And that seems to be that will be my next challenge, is making something that's not the koi pellets or other things that can get way too gross or get like forward flies and stuff on them. I just need this to be as easy as possible on all fronts. So I don't know how soon I'm going to be seriously working with them. But I can say I do have good news on another beetle front. I have a bunch of Dorcas titanus castanicolor females that have eclosed, and they don't eat Pachnota larvae. I had this back and forth with Kai. I took a healthy Goliath larva and put it in a 16-ounce cup with like 7 large Pachnota larvae, and it didn't touch any of them. It wouldn't do anything with them. And this is after like weeks, and it was like chewing up and masticating the substrate and all this other stuff. And so I don't know what's going on here. I feel like I wish that we had a documentation of what they eat in the wild for sure. Like where, I don't even know if there's any documentations of the larvae anywhere in the wild. Like I just want to know what the deal is, like what they actually do. You know, I feel like that would fix so many problems or make this so much easier if we could say, oh yeah, they live in, I don't know, like old elephant dung or something like that. There's got to be something weird or something odd about it. So, but yeah, so what I was saying was Dorcas titanus castanicolor has bred for me. So that's actually my first stag beetle to raise all the way from egg to adult, waiting on adult males to pupate now. They are so behind the females. So I'm imagining it's going to be at least probably January at the absolute earliest before I see adult males, maybe even February. But so that's a big success for me because that's something I hadn't done before. And now I feel very empowered to work with more Lucanids, and we'll be pestering probably Kai and Alan to start working with Parallelis, Dorcas parallelis and brevis. So there's that other beetle stuff. Anybody here have any experience with Chlorocalla africana? Not Ortsonii, Camerunica, the green ones. Anybody have any experience with those? Because Alan and I have like, Alan managed to get a couple of larvae out of some that he received, and I couldn't get any larvae out of them. And I felt like I gave them really good substrate and all this other stuff. And the person who originally produced them, they lost their colony. Then Alan had put a Euphoria species in with them and didn't get any Euphoria larvae, but then got Chlorocalla larvae, which maybe they're predatory, but it doesn't make any sense for them to be predatory in early instars but not later. And then we just haven't seen any larvae. And so I think Alan said he only got like 12 larvae, 20 larvae or something out of 8 females, which is ridiculous. That those numbers don't make any sense. And so I tried them. Originally it was on a mix of I raised them on a mix of like compost, leaf litter, some rotting wood, etc. And they grew just fine on that from like first or second instar that Alan had sent them. But we just can't seem to get females to lay. I tried fresh white rod infused wood, and they burrowed down into it and seem to be living in it just fine, but they haven't been reproducing. And there's no way this little tiny, like barely an inch beetle has some sort of weird complexity I don't think they need to be cooled. They're from like Central Africa. I don't think that like they only have a couple of offspring. That doesn't make sense for such a small, fast growing beetle. Anybody have any experience with those things? Because I'm sort of at my wit's end. What I ended up doing was I went out and dug up some quality compost from the compost heap. So it's all like well rotted, like wood and mouse bedding and yard waste, etc. Sterilized it, and then I mixed it about 70% that with the remaining 30% of the original white rot material stuff, and made sure there was like 4 inches of it, and then put my adults back on it. There's both sexes there too. You can sex them ventrally. And so we just don't know what we're doing wrong. Like I don't think beetles undergo like this death spiral like roaches do. They're 2 completely different groups of insects. You know, the hemimetabolic insects versus whole metabolic. I don't think that there's these same sort of dynamics going on there. So I'm I want to know if anybody has any advice or has had any experience raising those and can say, oh, yeah, I got them to breed really easily on hardwood flakes or something. I think Alan said the original breeder was using crumpled up wood they collect in the wild. And I don't think it would be red rot or brown rot wood because they're an African beetle. Like those fungi are more temperate in origin. So yeah, that's been a frustration is those things. Trying to get those going, which this, and actually maybe this is a good thing that we're flailing around with the Camerunica, because eventually if orts and I pop up, then it would be good to actually know what you're doing when you're trying to raise those. So let's see, any other bug stuff? Junior, if you're there, TJ was telling me that his group of Eurycotus species Venezuela has crashed. I think, would you say there was a pesticide or something that was mixed in with them or something like that? Dryapause to breed. Chain, I'll touch on that in 1 second. My thoughts on that, because it's not a bad suggestion. What was I going to say? So if you have Eurycotus Venezuela, I need those because the ones that TJ sent me all ended up being males. And it sucks. It sucks so bad. Actually, I was raising them in with my Balta Vilas, which there may be some that I missed in there, but I was pretty thorough when I checked. But man, I really want to get those going. Since how big are adult size? I remember them being bigger, and that might be because the one that I'm remembering the female adult size. But like the ones now, all the males are mature at. Let me use the eye ruler really quick. What's that? It's 2 centimeters, so about 3/4 of an inch. And I remember them being more on the order of like 3 centimeters at adulthood, which was probably the females. So. So I'm upset about that, and would really like to get them going again. That's a tiny little Tegmina. Oh yeah, I don't think I may have glanced over that when I was looking at them. Other things. Ooh. A white eye mutant has popped up in my Blatella vega from Dolphin Island, and Alan went and checked the colonies at Auburn that it came from, and apparently that mutation is very common in that, and we just never noticed it, probably because just we didn't look, but it caught my eye. Usually white eye mutations will catch your eye like that, interestingly. So yeah, we will probably have a white eye mutation, Blatella vega, and I'm actually kind of upset because this is the first time that I've done really well long term with Blatella vega, and now I have like a culture of wild type and of mixed phenotypes. So I'm a little upset about that. I'll just have to, I guess, separate out the wild types and hope that the white eye might just pop up again. So I don't know. I'll have to ask Alan to get some more of the stock that doesn't have it. TJ says, plus side, I've now got Afrostylopiga species Bangui, which is for sure the smallest bladder in culture. That's pretty nifty, and obviously be excited for some of those when they're ready. Junior, again, I think max size for the Venezuelas is about 3 centimeters. Heberdina ugandana, which seemed to be slightly smaller than Eurycotus species Venezuela. Oh, those are interesting. I like the roaches that look like the random pictures that people from all over the world would post on the Roach forum back in the day. Like they would, they just randomly post pictures, be like, "Oh, I found this at elevation 6,000 feet," and it would be just some random roach, and nobody would know what it is. So I like that Heberdina reminds me of that. So, yeah, Junior, you shouldn't have any issues getting babies out of them. I think that was one of the species that had sort of a classic style crash at my parents' where they did fine all winter because they were in a poorly ventilated container and in a stupidly dry house. And then summer came and the temperature dropped and the humidity went up, and they did not like that. So, yeah, good luck. I really want them back. Again, I really want some females. You know what? Now, actually, when I wrap up the stream, I'll go back in the Balta container and see if there are any others hanging out in there that I may have missed. Again, I was pretty thorough before, but if I could find just one female, I thought the nymph was a female too because it was like 5 adults and 1 nymph, and I like, oh, surely the nymph is the female, staggered from maturing from the rest of them. No, it was another male, styli. So, Jose Nunez, I've been really interested in pseudoscorpions. Are there any book recommendations to learn more about them? If only we knew somebody who was really into pseudoscorpions, such as William Samuel Jaden at willsbugroom.com. That would be go pester Will. I had an Alan to Will moment today, or Alan to Kyle circa 2018, but it was a Kyle to Will moment circa 2022. So there's some researchers in Switzerland who need pseudoscorpions for venom research and all this other stuff. And I that's a lot of emails in a short period of time. And I sent them to Will, and Will was kind of complaining back at me about like, oh, how about you like do this, and then I'll like do this to you, and then like then you can do this, and then you do this, give this to me, and then I'll send this. And there's like, Will, just sell your pseudoscorpions. Will, just sell bug. Anyway, so you can pester Will. I'll put his link here to get him site traffic at willsbugroom.com. I will go ahead and Roach stream. Hello, Paraplaneta Missionary. Did I have something to tell you, Paraplaneta Missionary? Maybe I did. So Pastor Will sent an email. Sent him several emails, etc. Eventually he'll get back to you, but he's a wealth of information on that on pseudoscorpion stuff. Way, way more than I do. Junior, do you have Tarsalis available, perhaps? Still no babies though. Yep. I think what happened was they were really happy last year. Some of you may remember when there was not a gigantic rack here and it was a single table and I had multiple heat pads. But the Tarsalis did really well on the heat pads with a daily spraying. And then I think, was that over this summer or was that over last summer? This summer. Then over this summer or early spring, I think there was a couple of days where I was lax with watering. Maybe it dried out the Tarsalis too much and then didn't recover or something. That might have been what happened, since they were with all the air in a Vega, which can take a little bit of that when the air is humid. But anyways, yeah, it was very unfortunate because I was very excited for those species, but at least the Magnifica are still doing okay. Actually, I need to bump the Magnifica into a larger enclosure. It's on the list of to-dos for today after the live stream was doing that because I would like to get some major production out of them again, and maybe whatever I've been doing the last 6 months, they have not really liked. They haven't been cranking out the babies like they were last year in December. So we're going to upgrade them. We're going to see where we can get. Paraplaneta Missionary. Okay, here was the news update. I will hopefully have Periplaneta brunea very soon. Alan sent me some adults and large nymphs, and I think the key with brunea, because I've had good healthy groups the last couple of years, usually during the winter time, and I think the key with Periplaneta brunea is just they want lots of moisture. I think that they're just very dry sensitive, and this also reminds me that so last year, remember I was talking about the potential Wolbachia and Pyralis moths being a vector for it, and that why my bladdids were dying and all this other stuff, and have come to accept that no, my roach bins, even if I water daily, they still get too dry with full top ventilation for some species like Derapeltis. And even for things like Periplaneta, where I remember that, I didn't have any babies being born in the white eyes over the winter. So even, even if you water daily, some species just want higher all-around humidity. They just, even if they have to drink constantly, if conditions are not, humidity is not good in the enclosure, wherever they're hiding out for periods of time, they cannot properly form ooths. And you can lose colonies. With some things, it's not as reversible as with others. For example, the Derapeltis, they just crashed completely last year, except for the Masai Mara, which I did salvage and then got a bunch and got those going again hardcore. But I think brunea is just is perhaps maybe even the most sensitive of the species of the bladdids to dry conditions. And that maybe is why they have not done well recently for me. Like I've been like, yeah, they got adults, they're doing great, they're laying lots of ooths. Now they're eating the ooths. Now there's no babies. What's going on? So I have them in a roach crossing traditional enclosure, which is a plastic hexagon with brass microscreen, very 2 or 3 1-inch brass microscreen ventilation holes. There's some visible condensation forming on the back wall of the enclosure, and the brunea have just been stockpiling ooths on like a single piece of bark, and I'm not seeing any signs of the ooths being eaten, and plenty of food of different types in there. So yes, I'm hopeful that this will lead to a happy brunea colony. And what I can then do is move them into a full-size 10-gallon, because I like having 10 gallons with Periplaneta in them. And full-size 10-gallon, what's the next part of that equation? The polycarb lids that I've been using have been doing a great job trapping humidity in my setups, and it's almost as if there's nothing there. So I get to have my nice, pretty 10 gallons still, and don't have to worry about watering every day, even per se in the winter time. It's been the best of every world all around. I'm very happy that I got those polycarb things. So that's a little aside. Tarsalis still no babies. Periplaneta missionary is not in the position to get roaches at the moment. Passive Periplaneta acquisitions in the household or apartment are completely fine, though, right? From external sources. Was there any other topics, any other things that I was going to go into talking about? Do you have any katydids? Currently, the only katydids here are Stolpnichlora couloniana in extremely sparing numbers. And I do technically have some eggs of a native Amblycarifa. I didn't really identify the species. And I'm just sort of leaving them at room temperature here and seeing if they actually end up hatching. And just out of curiosity. Any other katydids? I did get, I don't know if Kai's watching or if Kai's watching. I did get some nymphs to hatch from the horse lovers. Kai gave me a female last October, whenever Kai and I formally met and kicked off that lovely friendship. But I did get a hatch of them. I have some captive bred horse lubbers that are now doing their thing in one of the tanks down there. I just threw them in with one of the Aranavega, not one of the Floridensis, but one of the Aranavega, thinking, well, they're just going to poop. They're just going to eat like lettuce and poop. And that's basically what the Aranavega eats, so I don't see any harm in it. So, and I'm hoping one of these other egg cups will hatch. It's been over a year now, but horse lubbers are notorious for having very long incubation on their eggs. So I should be lucky that I got this group to hatch. And, I think I've got maybe like 10 of them and maybe like 20 hatch. So that's pretty good. They're getting pretty big right now. And what I guess I could do is sell egg cups. I just kind of feel dumb selling nymphs of horse lubbers because it's like, how do I put this? They're best kept to just keep them laying eggs here, and it makes more sense. It just feels right to send people an egg cluster that could hatch into like 20 to 80 or whatever the number that can be in the clusters are. Even if it takes a long time, it's more like, well, like the adults or nymphs could get stressed in shipping, or they could eat each other, or like they could get damaged. It's just like, just send the eggs. They're so much more durable. And even though you're going to wait a while, it's like you still get them. It's almost like triops. So anyways, maybe those will be available eventually. Dry pause. Shane, if you're still there, dry pause. We were talking about, you brought up for chlorocala. And so here's what I'm gonna propose as a counter to. Also, Josh Suds. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome to the Roach Wiggle. The Katie question there. Anyways, Shane. Here are the reasons I believe dryapause is not what's needed here. Is one, the adult beetles do not seem particularly dry tolerant. I think that I may have killed like one that I set aside in a container with a fabric lid by just having it in the container and not having like substrate for it to burrow down into. I know that's not the best argument, but like you can leave like Eleodes, really dry tolerant beetles, in a container of that sort. You can leave like for like a day or two. You can leave like Euphoria, like you can leave Cotinus like that, and those are all from kind of dry, arid places. Cotinus mutabilis, at least. So, and the other thing was that after they pupate, they just go so fast. They pupate and they're done. Like they pupate and then like a little while later they will manually extract themselves from the pupal cells. So yes, Euphoria can fly. So I would think that if dryapause was involved, that it would be the adults resting in the pupal cells and then breaking out, and instead of being active and flying all over the place immediately, they would go into a quiescence. That doesn't seem to be the case. So I think what's probably going on is they're picky about the substrate feel. Like they want a specific feel to the substrate when they burrowed into this. Kai had brought up that Dorcas brevis and maybe parallelis are like that they want really hard, compressed, compacted substrate or they won't lay eggs. And with the Dorcas titanus that I have noticed that while I don't have a control to compare to, but the females will dig all the way down through like hard, compacted, mycelium-filled substrate to get to the bottom to lay eggs down there. So I have seen the chlorocala dig into the mycelium block, the white rot that I had in there, but it was very restrictive. Like they dug their one little tunnel down into it, and they didn't they didn't dig multiple tunnels. It seemed like this is sort of a one-off behavior. And also, instead of like doing a dry pause or whatever, they just dug it and they like sat down there for a bit, and then they came back up and they were just running around feeding and stuff. It just seemed like weird. It seemed maybe more they were doing it to avoid drying out. So yeah, I mean, Alan had some success. So he was using that Alabama potting soil mix, which is, upon seeing it, it's just really well rotted wood. It's like a flake soil material. Or past that, it's just basically like wood that's been turned to soil. It's probably like a remnant, like sawdust to the bottom of like big commercial mulch piles or something weird like that. And so that's what makes me think that maybe they're very picky about substrate consistency, and they want to be able to burrow into and do something specific for the moisture. I don't know. So that's my thoughts there. Maybe we'll just lose them because apparently nobody can figure them out consistently. Boy. So, any other questions or anything? I don't have anything pressing to do, but I am feeling the call of the bug room to go and finish some stuff up. I actually, while I'm seeing if anybody has any additional questions or comments or anything, Joshua Campos has been keeping Blabberus colossius Peru alive, and I lost my culture, I don't know, like 5 to 6 months ago of those. I think I kept them too warm and dry. I'm finding out more and more Blabberus, especially adults, have a pretty high metabolism and need quite a bit of food. And so if you aren't providing good food for the adults, you can start to see colony collapses and die-offs. And in addition to that, Colossius in particular seems to be quite ravenous. And so I think that on my schedule of like taking care of roaches every month or whatever, it just was not feasible, or it was not ideal for them to be kept warm and then not be given fresh food, and like fresh like fruit or sugary foods frequently, and that just cause them to die and not reproduce. So I'm taking precautions with my Colossius now, and giving them. I found a great resource. This is going to be in the husbandry care guide, and that is introduced to me by Kai. Kai, if you're watching, or if you watch this eventually, here's your flex. Here's your flex on me. Here's your flex on everybody. I mean, other bug people have been using these for a while. Like Oren uses them. Actually, he sent me a box, and he's put a couple of them in the box. But there are the little sugar fruit jelly thingies right here. I think I may have had this conversation before. Whatever, we're doing it again. These things, these mango coconut ones, Kai was the one who told me that these seem to be a bug favorite, specifically the mango flavor of this brand. They make them with lychee and grape and all kinds of other flavors, but bugs seem to particularly like these mango ones. So Kai was the one who introduced me to this, and these have ended up being incredible for a bunch of roaches in particular. They last a while. They don't mold. Even if they do mold, it's usually the top that molds, and the bottom will still be intact, so roaches can shove their faces in and eat underneath the mold and sort of eat the mold and whatever. These are wonderful. Obviously, you don't necessarily want to rely on using these for larger roaches, because you will lose so much money using this over using apples and stuff. But for smaller cultures of stuff or sensitive things, I found these to be excellent. So where I'm going with this is, now when I walk by my Colossius enclosures, it's very easy for me. I don't have to be like, oh, I have to go get an apple from the cold room, cut the apple up. Now I've got 4 slices of apple. I got to give one to the Colossius. I got to take these other slices and do something else with them. I can just peel away the tab and throw this whole thing with the Colossus, and that's good. And I have noticed a decrease in adult deaths in the colonies that were already okay, the Panama and Ecuador. And so now that I have Peru again, I'm going to be relying on these again for supplemental feeding in between larger feedings. How many cave cricket species do you have, and how many have successfully bred? Successfully bred, I'm so bad with the other genre names of cave crickets. I can't even remember. The Japanese or whatever, the house cave cricket, those Chiricahua, Gracillipes, Agassizii, CF meridionalis, CF borealis, and there's a couple from Arizona that I need to check on still too. So that's like 7-ish. I do want to keep adding to my number. Actually, Kai's supposed to bring me some cool cave crickets on Saturday. It's a California genus with cool hind legs. TJ, my table rocks, I probably have like 5 nymphs. They just didn't do for me, which again is kind of startling considering I think the second time or the first time that I had them, I can't remember if they came from you or if that time they came from Brandon Maines, but they infested the roach bin that I put them in with, which I think was one of my Rhyperobias. And they were there like hundreds of them, and then whatever the winds blew wrong and they died out in there. But so that's something I'm going to need to get from you again, a bunch of them. And you know what? I think I'll try them in one of these. I'll probably try them in one of these faunariums because the Alabama Parkablata, the Divisa are maturing without a diapause, and I don't understand. But you know what? I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to let it go. These Divisa from New Park, Alabama, and it seems like the Lata might even be going without diapause, which I'm coloring me surprised, and I'm wondering what the exact deal is, but I'm not going to question it too much. And I'll be pulling Caudali out of cold storage pretty soon, and we'll see if after a year and a half or 2 years they finally molt to adulthood. But yeah, I'll probably try them in one of these containers because I put them in one of my hexagons instead. They maybe wanted more ventilation. I don't know. So I'll do that again. And obviously, we see that a northern Parkablata does not require diapause because your table rocks don't. So, Tennyson looking for a Pseudophilus. You just got to find anywhere to look around at night, especially anywhere that's got any public property that has like water fountains or leaky faucets, or anywhere that's just sort of got some extra moisture hanging out, tree cavities in public parks. You gotta look around, but the moisture is usually what attracts them out west, sprinkler boxes and things like that. You missed the question, but earlier I asked what your most loud, obnoxious roach colony is. I'm dying to know. You know what? Ailuropida and Cygnus are pretty loud and noisy. By sound of like moving around, it might be like a Paraplaneta, like a big colony of Paraplaneta that makes like bristling, brushing noises when they're all running around. But just in terms of general sound production, Ailuropida are pretty noisy. The males they'll be out during the day. They'll be pushing and shoving each other, and they'll be rubbing against each other and knocking. You get a big male that encounters another male under a piece of bark, and they'll be bumping the bark up and down with all the other roaches on it while they're headbutting. So that's what I would say. That's probably Ailuropida and Cygnus. A lot of the hissers are pretty noisy just by virtue of being hissers, but in particular, I'd say Ailuropida. The Beetle guy, welcome. Wow, 18 people. Yeah, we got our regular crew in here. I am kind of hoping that we'll hit 20 regulars soon, maybe after I put up a video of the Roach room tour. And I second TJ's suggestions. I personally do not have a lot of success with baiting things. I have had good success when I was doing sampling at U of M with pitfall traps. Not necessarily my style nowadays, but I can definitely second with TJ saying spring and fall. It's probably temperature related and humidity maybe too. So as the temperature drops, they aren't staying up, in crevices and in places to retain moisture. They're a little bit more free to go around and forage at things like oatmeal trails. Somebody says I have a small isopod that has been breeding in my Gynecrophorum. That's impressive. Anything breeding in with Gynecrophorum, I don't know what they are. Send pictures to the email, and I can help you out as best as I can. The Beetle Guy, have you published the GoFundMe? I have decided, because of some technicalities with the Kickstarter, etc. stuff, that I would forego actually doing it that way. There is now a donation button and link on the roachcrossing.com homepage, so you can donate to the cause directly instead of going through a third party. You can use PayPal, and it just gets sent directly to me, and I have a list of everybody who's donated. They will be getting an acknowledgement in the live stream once we have reached the necessary donations, and also in the care guide. I will also likely send a BCC email out shortly before the care guide is finished or shortly after to everybody who donated to proofread, to look at, to make some suggestions for being like, hey, you should add this, etc. So, here in Michigan and in the East seems the best way to find cave crickets with how humid everything is they will very frequently be inside of logs, like burrowed into logs. They'll be around old human structures. The CF borealis came from a gazebo on the Henry Ford / U of M Dearborn estate when Brandon and I got permission to go collect there during the summer. They were on the steps around the stone foundation, a little bit of overgrownness. It's like you could see how things could get under the stonework up against the ground, and sort of wiggle their way up and under there to hide during the day. And in Tennessee, they were on like an old mining equipment, metal structure type thing, or not metal, stone structure. There's a lot of moss or all kinds of other stuff on there. And of course, you can the ones that were in the pump tub. I can't remember what was called. I was so in love with that thing. In Tennessee, there were a lot of those Hadenicus cave crickets in this hollowed out square cube mini cave thing where there was water actively flowing through it. So things that are like caves tend to attract cave crickets. But obviously, as TJ said, there's species like Agassizii that are more out and about. So it really depends. You just got to have a good eye. But going out at night is definitely very helpful for finding them. So. And in rodent burrows too. That was where there was a genus or species of them in Arizona, which I unfortunately did not encounter this year, but they were very frequently out at the ends of rodent burrows, and also unfortunately not likely to be fisted out of rodent burrows, because I would assume when they detect your hand coming, they go deeper into the burrow as opposed to just staying there like Aranavega and silverfish and isopods that are just in the material at the bottom of the burrow. So you have to get lucky and catch them when they're out and about at night. So, I've never seen the sand treaders in the wild either, unfortunately. And I've been to areas in New Mexico and in Arizona that should have them. But sometimes you just got to be in the right place at the right time. And I was in the right place at the wrong time. So I don't know if anybody noticed, but I've been slowly. I took this out to show everybody. I've been slowly like peeling the wrapper off, and I want to eat it when the live stream's over. So yeah, looks like we're at an hour and 24 minutes, and the call to go and do some stuff before bed is getting even stronger. I do need to finish up my Perinophyta formosana enclosure. TJ, I need to go look at the Discord and see what the list of things you sent me. I may actually be proactive and get some enclosures ready. Battery-powered shop vac should work wonders on rodent burrows. The other thing with cave crickets is some of them are quite delicate, and they will lose their legs if they are handled roughly or if they are sucked up roughly. And that's not necessarily the direct issue. The issue that I've had is that their abdomens are pretty prone to rupturing if they hit the side of something too hard or if they're stretched the wrong way. Tennyson, I direct you to TJ for keeping Mormon crickets. Definitely a wealth of knowledge on Mormon crickets keeping as well. Yeah, see, TJ says, like, there are some species, like, I could see Agassizii tolerating getting sucked up in a shop vac or Meridianalis, but, like, the little ones that I was finding in the mountains in Arizona, no, those would just get shredded by getting sucked into a vacuum. Or Gracillipes, I feel like you'd mangle pretty good sucking it up into a vacuum. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's one of those things you can't necessarily rush. You could go you could do an elaborate setup where if you found somewhere where you've seen them before, you could set up like a pit. You put a pitfall trap in, but also modify it so it's like super appealing to stuff. Like have a little entrance hole and have like some wet towels and some cat food or something in there. Make sure like vermin like raccoons and coyotes and stuff can't break into it. But you probably get some payoff from that. You'd have to wait a couple of months during peak season, but I bet you'd find some pretty cool stuff in there, after that. So. Oh, Mormon crickets. Okay, because I've heard sparingly Jerusalem crickets referred to as Mormon crickets. Those in the same group as Atlanticus? They're morphologically very similar, but that doesn't mean that they're related. Yeah, they're. What's this? Tediganini. Not directly related, but there's a lot of morphological similarities. Anyways, probably same care as Atlanticus. I wouldn't be surprised if the eggs needed a diapause or something like that too. Oviposit it in sand and whatnot. And yeah, catching Pseudophilus. I mean, they can really get you moving too. Like those desert ones, the ones that were out in the not Portal, east of Portal. Where is that? No, it was Portal. Was it technically Portal? Ones near the Chiricahua Desert Museum. Boy, like they realize that you're onto them. They will jump all over the place, or they will just go down the nearest rodent burrow, and you will never see them again. So you gotta be ready. When you go looking for those. The ones in Tennessee on the wall, you'd think they'd be really easy to catch, but again, they know that when you're grabbing for them, they will jump and they will hit the ground and they'll boing, boing, boing all over the place away from you. Very frustrating. I think that the Meridianalis, the ones usually if you find them in logs, they're kind of like they'll be stunned for a second. They'll still just be sort of like sitting there and trying to avoid moving. How long is Macropenesia gestation again? I forget, says TJ. 1 litter a year. I would imagine that based on the times that I've separated babies from adults and how not formed the babies are, it's probably like 3 to 4 months, which is shorter than I think people would anticipate. But again, 1 generation per trip around the sun. and haven't been able to get it any faster than that, basically. So yeah, it's just 3 to 5 months. So anyway, so I think we'll wrap things up tonight. Next week, anything exciting next week? Next week's live stream will probably be just a general check-in. I'll probably be in good spirits, being on top of things. Let's see. That's about all that I can think of. Maybe I'll have gotten a TJ box next week. Maybe not. I don't know. TJ, I'll have to pester you. Anything else? Anything else I can think of? Not really. It's been. I hope everybody's Thanksgiving was nice. I had a very wonderful Thanksgiving. Saw a family member that I have not. Well, I saw her back in the spring, but that has not been at Thanksgiving for a couple of years just because of schedule and whatever. So it was a very good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody else had a really good Thanksgiving too. And we're now moving into actual winter with December 1st. And 3 months of heavy roach crossing productivity. Again, usually by the end of February, I'm just like, oh, I want bugs. Oh, I want warmth. And I do have, with the potential house sale coming up in the spring, I should not plan too many trips, debating doing a Florida trip this winter. I need to have somebody watch the dog, etc. If I did a Florida trip, it would probably be January or February, because in March, I am for sure doing an Alabama trip to go see Satchel and Allen and go and beat spring, beat spring to the northern hemisphere. Since we went down there last year, they were like 6 weeks ahead of Michigan with their weather and how everything that was out. So yeah, that's all the trips I have. Unlikely I'll be doing an out west or Arizona trip this summer, not just because of moving, but because I kind of need a break. That could change, though. Could change. We'll see how it goes. Oh yeah, wow, I can't believe that. What are those called again, TJ? The metallic bark gnawing beetles. And you know what? Did I say this before? I feel like I said this before. Or maybe I did or didn't, or maybe Temnoscala. Maybe Will said it to you or something, but Will actually found another one of those that same night, and he had it in the palm of his hand, and he called me over. He was gonna come over to me with it, and I think he called out to me, and it bit him, and he wasn't expecting it to bite him, and so he dropped it. And I was just like, oh, come on. But I think I remember him making the noise that sounded like he was trying to call me over. So unfortunate. And I have to remember, if I gave you the locality info for that, if you could get it back to me, it's more than feasible to go by there on the way to Alabama to look for more of them. I didn't really mind going to that one rest stop. I didn't really find too much there. Oh, that was where I found the drainage ditch isopods, and there's some cool snail, and blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, and the tree hole that was full of Paraplaneta fuliginosa, a really interesting moth fly that we didn't catch, and a bunch of fleas. I wouldn't mind getting a handful of gunk from the bottom of that now that there's a possibility of going back there. It was, Alan might actually know where it was. It was somewhere in northeastern Alabama, maybe. But I think Alan actually knows that spot. So yeah, that's that. There we are. There's the Roach Wiggle for December 1st. Getting the holiday spirit, whatever that holidays may be, and I'll see everybody next week. Until then, especially Junior with your Eurycotus species Venezuela. Have Android? No, I have an iDevice, Chris, but I could probably check the data from there too. Or if I upload it to like iNet, it should had the geotagging on it, so I could do that. I might have taken a picture or video from there. The federal government does. All right, so may your cultures ever be bountiful, and I will see everybody next week.